Good evening. How's everyone doing? Friday night. Whoopee! Party. Yeah, I know. Look how gray I am. I got older. I aged in a week. That's what living with Chris does to you. It ages you quickly. How are you, Lisa? How's everyone doing? Happy Friday. Yeah, we took it easy this week. We really didn't do anything. Um, Thought about going to the Creeper Gallery, but changed my mind and did do it this week. Just again, one of those just take it easy weeks and not do much of anything. Hello, Laura. How are you? How's everyone doing? I know Friday night, we all got big plans. Here we are. So, thought I'd come on 8:30. Um, can never talk about what I want to talk about, so I have to talk about other things or I get myself in trouble. Right? Over there. So nodding their head. Hey, Karen. Yeah, we're hanging in there. Lots going on. Um, Stuff we really can't get into as far as my family. Walter is gonna probably need another surgery for his cancer, so he's slowing down and kind of we're going back and forth of you know what to do about Walter. You know, have another surgery or what we're gonna do. Hello, Kevin. How are you? Um, I we actually were. I'm watching the Hannah Montana movie. Oh, Luann, you should never admit that publicly. Hannah Montana. That's what Luann is watching. Yeah, even Chris rolled her eyes at you, Luann. Are you singing along, Luann? Tell the truth. But anyway, we did for the first time start looking into potential locations for our paranormal picnic. I don't know what else we're going to call it for June 13th. So, hey, Linda, how are you? So, just starting to look for places with the pavilion, and it has multiple grills around the pavilion just in case it rains, so we could cook. Hey, Veronica, and people can get together if they want to. I just looked at a few places. I guess everything books up real quick now, so I'm going to look at a few more. But if you guys can think of any that you might be aware of, send me a message through the page, and I'll reach out to them. But I tried two near us, and they're booked. So maybe that's like a weird week for like graduations or whatever. But I'm trying. It is something I would like to do. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking I want to do it because it's a nice break in between everything for everyone to get together, and you know we're trying to figure out our schedule for the remainder of the years. August through October is pretty much like killer. I mean, I'm juggling dates. I'm adding Friday nights. I'm doing whatever I can to accommodate as many places that I can, and it's like I'm gonna enjoy the periods of downtime. Uh-oh, there's breaking stuff. Do you hear that? The periods of downtime we have between things that we do uh, now and then. I don't even really know, uh, honestly, what the next event is going to be after the John Zaffis one. It may not be till July, but I think there's something that's going to come down on June 20th, but I'm not sure. It's like waiting on so many people to figure out what they're going to do. But it is what it is. I mean, I don't mind having the summer, some weeks off in the summer to go hang out and do stuff. And Chris and I to take a break and go places. Um, yeah, thank you for the positive thoughts. I appreciate it. Not easy. If you guys ever been through it, you know when your dog gets older, it's bad enough. But when your dog gets older and has cancer, I've never been through that before, so um, that's new for me with the surgery and the chemo, and then the chemo not working. We thought it was. We got to the last treatment, and he grew some more nodules, and now we're talking surgery again. You know, because but he's 13 plus, and I don't know. They just trying to figure out what's best, for him going forward. Um, yeah, Walter's still Walter. He still eats, he still drinks, he still gets around, but he's definitely getting older, and it's taking its toll, you know, and it's just hard, that, and it's just one thing after another type of things that get me. I mean, that's why, um, I try to break that cycle as best I can when it comes to things. Yeah, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. But I literally went from, you know, uh, finding out about Walter to uh, my mirror hit another car's mirror and knocked it off. Week after that, I told you I got my cracked windshield. And then there were health issues within my family that I really can't go into. Um, my daughter's going through some stuff, and it's just one thing after another, and it's just like, man, just give me a minute, you know. So yeah, it's been like that lately. So this stuff becomes a good distraction as far as staying busy and doing things and being around people, just getting my mind off of whatever else is going on. So yeah, this weekend feels kind of like, even though we did an event last weekend, I feel like I should be doing something this weekend, but not going to happen. But I think next weekend, I think we're doing something next weekend. I'm not sure. People keep telling me we are, but I think we are. But yeah, I mean, it's staying busy is good. I booked an investigation for the group, the team, for a new building um, that this historic society has wanted us to check out. Hey, Sally, for weeks now, for months since we went and toured it. Interesting story. I told you it was a story about the people that lived there. The last living resident of the building before the historic society took it out wound up having mental issues, um, and someone else who lived in the house during its history had issues as well and tried to kill somebody. So interesting house, and I'm looking forward to getting in there. The one big problem, and I think I told you guys this, was that it literally sits like right on a main road, and man, you wish everything was ideal and out in the middle of the woods, and everything was quiet and you could do everything you wanted to do, EVPs and all that stuff, but sometimes it just don't work out that way. But sometimes stuff still happens. You never know. I told them, look, we'll come in and see what we see, and I hope it's really active. But you never know. I got a feeling it is active. I really do. There's such a vibe in that building. Um, there's got to be something. Like, picture those really really old buildings in Gettysburg, and PA has a lot of those buildings too that are all old brick, like really old brick. This building is entirely old brick, and the initials of the family that owned it originally are on the top corner of the building, which is really cool. And again, I wonder, because you know, the history of that location and the things that went on in that area. Hey, Brian, how's it going? Um, is pretty interesting. So you wonder again what effect that negativity has could have on people, on different people. I may be okay, but somebody else might not be. You know, I'll never forget. And we talked about this with John Zaffis when he was on. We did an event with him, and I'm just repeating again what happened during the event with John. John brought an object. John doesn't bring dark objects out with him when he comes out with us. So there was really nothing to fear as far as I knew. And I let everybody come up and hold the object and just feel it and give their impressions of what they felt. And this woman had a breakdown. And she said it brought up trauma from her childhood. And she was really crying. I mean, crying. And I looked at John. John looked at me, and we were like, what's going on here? And even John was like, I have no idea. So that's the part that really intrigues me, is that going into a new building, you never know. You have hopes that something's going to happen, but you never know how each person is going to be affected either, especially if the building hasn't been lived in for a while. Then you have, I hate to say it because it doesn't sound right, but then you have like dormant spirits that really haven't been in contact with people in a while. And you wonder if they're aware of that and they're just waiting in a good way or a bad way to see if people are going to come in and try to occupy that space. So that interests me as well. Some days are diamonds, some days are stone. Getting through the stuff. Yeah, Kathleen, I said the same thing. Without getting too much into things, I tell my son all the time, because he used to battle a little bit of like depression and stuff, but he's way better now. But I used to tell him when he was younger all the time, like, hey, peaks and valleys, man. That's what life is, peaks and valleys. And you learn, especially when you get older, you will learn to enjoy just the mundane, boring days where nothing is happening. Because on the days when everything is happening or a bad thing happens or crap is, you're dealing with bull crap, you're wishing for one of those regular days, And I've instilled that in him, like to just, hey, appreciate the good when it's good, enjoy it, you should. But when the bad comes, it's like weather in the storm, you just got to hope at the end there's, the rain stops and the rainbows come, and, it's all you can hope for, but it is what it is. And like I said, so between that and, Chris is still dealing with her arm, her shoulder, and she's getting better ish. Not going back to the doctor the way I told her a million times, but one day she'll listen to me, my mom used to say, appreciate the boring days. My mom had, it's a funny thing. And again, I'm going to get away from the paranormal and get on tangents. It is so funny how we remember like mom sayings. I didn't grow up with a father. My father was gone when I was 2. So I just had my mom, and my mom had her sayings, when it was there for the grace of God, go I. Whenever I would even, being a young kid, and you would see people who were different, and you would kind of stare at them and look at them. I'm talking like 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever. And she would give me a rap on the head, and she would say, there for the grace of God, go I. And I was like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, she would say it all the time. And then I got it. As you get older, you learn. And, if you have people in your family that are dealing with disabilities or things like that, you really, really know what it means. Because, life is a crapshoot. I mean, when you're born, and nobody has any control over things that happen to people, or health issues or any other issues that people deal with. And my mom used to just instill that in me, like, hey, that was but a luck. It was pick a card. You picked a card and you were fine. You had 10 toes, 10 fingers, and whatever. And yet that person, doesn't, his life or her life is going to be, a little harder. But she instilled that in me. She did. And another one of her famous sayings, my mom would, you couldn't cry with my mom. If you got hurt and you show her like a cut on your arm, or you're bleeding from something, or a bruise, or you know, something swollen, you would you'd go to my mom and you'd show it to her, and she'd look at you and, what are you crying about? You'll live. You'll live. I heard that my entire life. You'll live. So I really was raised just my kids the same way. Like, when you're hurt, you're hurt. But if you're not hurt, what are you crying about? You know, you put a band-aid on it, whatever, you'll live. You know, that was another one of my mom's famous sayings. It's funny how you should keep a journal and like write them down. If you still can, if your parents are still with you, you really should. I wish that again, hindsight's 2020. You wish you could go back. I was watching this. There's a comedian. His name is Jeffrey Ross. Not for everybody. He does a lot of the roasts on Comedy Central and stuff, but he does this like one man show. I was watching part of it on Netflix where he talks about his parents and his grandparents, and he's showing all these 8mm films of his mother and father, and describing how he lost them both when he was younger, and yet, you know, he still had these notes from them and videos, and it's just like, wow. Again, when we think about it, you know, those photos in our phones, you know, those videos that we have, if you come from our generation, you know, photo albums, yes, they're kids. There was such a thing as photo albums back in the day, and every family had them. You would literally, you know, there was the keeper of the photo album. In my case, it was my mom, literally just, you know, that thick, you know, and there are pictures from the time we were babies to, you know, birthdays, to the kids' birthdays, the grandkids' birthdays. And again, I wonder if that art has been lost on the current younger generation. Like, is everything on their phone? You know, like, is everything digital, or did they have photo albums? It's kind of weird that that may have been lost, because it was really something. But again, every one of those pictures um, is a moment in time. It's a memory, and um, sort of like with haunted objects, and that, you know, can you call upon that frequency or that spirit, or channel the spirit in by referencing a picture and a memory and feeling that person. You know what I mean? Like, it would be, I shouldn't probably even mention this because everybody and their mother will be doing it. But it would be kind of interesting to try and experiment. God, I probably shouldn't say it, should I? Because I literally just thought of it. It literally just popped into my head. But it would have to be a very personal thing, and the person would have to agree to it. Um, Almost like a seance, but not a seance. But it would be a very interesting experience, and something I've never done, and something that I wouldn't feel comfortable with unless the person absolutely 100% wanted to do it. And even then, I probably wouldn't be comfortable doing it because it's too personal. But it would be really, really interesting when we investigate haunted objects, and we just went through this conversation with Kathleen, who was the medium on our page, and she kept talking about what she was getting and her impressions, and it's so different from what we do, you know. And when it comes to the objects, we just want the basic information, and we want to document what we can, and add to it, or speak to the person as if we just got introduced and here's what we know about their life, and we go from there. Um, it would be really, really interesting to see if someone were to bring items or photos that belong to someone and investigate them like haunted objects. Meaning, not that they're haunted per se, that's just a word that means energy connected to. When I say haunted, I mean, it's just a generic word that everybody knows. But in this case, I'm talking about. We did an investigation. I don't know if you guys remember this or knew anything about it. I could probably show this video because it's never going to air anywhere. The When we did the investigation of those murder objects, she's looking confused. But we were asked to investigate the objects. These were actually evidence boxes from a murder that took place over 100 years ago. It was the anniversary of the double homicide. It was a big story in Jersey. It was a reverend and his mistress. Oh, yeah. And the mistress was in the choir singer, and she was married too. And it was this big story, big scandal. They never convicted anyway. They tried the reverend's wife and her brothers, but no one was convicted. So we were asked, and it was one of the coolest things we've ever done. And it didn't yield the results that I hoped it would, but we literally were asked to come in and go through evidence boxes and lay them out on the table and see what we got. If we could come up with like new information or validate information or whatever. And it was really, really cool because there were like detectives kind of monitoring us with the evidence in a room. And we had things like bloody hats, bullet casings, bloody clothing. We had bizarre, like, stuff. And we didn't get a whole lot, not nearly as much as I hoped we would, for sure. And again, we were thinking because these people were both murdered, maybe they did have a story to tell and it didn't happen. But it would be really interesting to see if someone could bring an article of clothing, some photos of a relative, a loved one, a friend, or whatever, and just see if that connection was possible from our perspective, not on the medium side with the seance and all that other stuff. Just, lay a recorder down and, no spirit box or nothing, just maybe a little bit of spirit box, but lay a recorder down and just see, is it possible? It, it would be interesting to try. As she was dying, I asked my mother to give me a sign from heaven. We agreed she'd play one of her music boxes. I got my tablet's all the way over there charging, so I can't hit the button. Can't read that whole statement. Give me 1 sec. As you can see, I'm a one-man band, as always. Hall's Mills murder. You got it, Patricia. As she was dying, I asked my mother-in-law to give me a sign from heaven. We agreed she'd play one of her music boxes from beyond, still waiting. But my deceased father-in-law played one from his afterlife for her many times, a special one he gave her for the vow. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And again, I would never do it in I don't think I'd ever do it, to be honest with you, in the first place. But I wouldn't do it in a way that was disrespecting or exploiting or taking advantage of someone. It would have to be something kind of concrete. I mean, I would really want like a voice on a recorder, like an EVP, an actual voice to ever say to anyone that I think that this is that person and they were coming through, because especially if I knew the person, or because it's like I said, I wouldn't do it as part of an event or anything like that. It would just be an experimental thing, just to try, but again, I don't think I'll ever do it because it's just one of those things. But in theory, it does sound really interesting to try something like that, just to put a recorder down on an old photo, even like, I wouldn't do it for me either, because again, it would be kind of I don't know, my loved ones because I just wouldn't do it, not for the sake of quote unquote entertainment or anything like that. Um, but it would be interesting to see if you could just open up a photo album, see a picture of yourself with whoever, grandma, whatever, and just talk about that memory while you have the recorder running. Mention grandma, grandpa's name, give me a sign that you're here. Could you say my name, say hello to me, and just stop the recorder afterwards as you're talking about that memory and whatever was going on then, and just see if there's any way that that channel that you tried happened. You know, you never know. You know, according to what Michael said in these other mediums, I mean, that's kind of what you're tapping into. You know, Patricia, you know more about this medium stuff than I do. You could talk about that. Hey, Anna, and Ann, how are you from Maine? So there are a lot of interesting things when it comes to um, the idea. I have that pin that was given to us by our ghost. What does that mean, Luann? I don't even know what that means. I have that pin. What pin, what ghost do I dare ask? Luann? I wish I had John, Luann, so I could talk about whatever you're mentioning here. Um, but there there are a lot of like I said, interesting concepts and ideas within the paranormal. And I just think that uh, you know, when 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 you're out there and you're investigating, um, as I've gotten older, uh, I really do find that it's. I try to make it more about the connection than the thrill, but yes, there are times when objects or buildings just dictate what's going on, and you can't turn that wheel the way you want it to go. A gold pin that fell through the wall. I've told you this story. Really, Luann? I don't remember this story. Gold pin that fell through the wall. Really, through the wall. Wow. You got to give me that pin, Luann. I gotta try that one out. Any idea who it belonged to? Was it a previous uh, homeowner? Someone who owned the house before you, or do you know where it came from? That's kind of weird. Our spirit in hatches, basements can create a stir. Uh, you know what's weird is that I do feel like times, and I don't know if you guys agree with me or if you ever if you agree with me or not, but I do get the feeling at times I've been in places where, and I mentioned this before, where I literally, and again, you try to put this in concept of being a person, but they're not people. They're energy. They've transitioned, but you do get the feeling that like again, take what Michael was talking about, how a spirit can appear in front of him, and it's Bill, and he said, "Hey, I died 10 minutes ago," or whatever. If that were true, you do feel like times where you've gone everywhere where the spirit isn't, and then you finally found him or her, and they didn't want to be found. There's a building. Dang, which building am I thinking of? It has a basement, but the basement has another cutout area behind a wall. God, what am I thinking of? And that area, I got a vibe as soon as I walked into that area, like, you don't belong here. Don't come in here. And I purposely put a piece of equipment in there and I waited. And it was the motion bell that I have, the only few times that it bing, bing, bing. And every time I went in there, I got the strong, strong feeling like I'm purposely here because I don't want anything to do with you. So stay out of here. I got that feeling. And you know the weird thing, um, I went to this is what I mean about there are no guarantees when it comes to locations. They can be um, the most active places in that there are, and yet you could go there and nothing could happen. That's true. I've seen it. Um, I would never say just based on my experience alone. It's not like watching a movie. Like you can't watch a movie and say, "Yeah, well, Gordy didn't," it sucked, you know. And but you go to a location, um, just because it didn't happen for you doesn't mean it doesn't ever happen. You know what I mean? Um, and I've been to places like that. I told you, I went to Penhurst. Nothing happened to me. Nothing. Me. Nothing. And you know me. I was looking for it everywhere, and I couldn't find it. Penhurst is one of the most haunted places, supposedly, in the country. Then I went to Gettysburg, and um, the orphanage is another big place that people, all the YouTube channels and whatever is really, really haunted or whatever. I was in that basement where supposedly the kids were chained up and, abused and whatever. And by myself, I went into that little, if you've ever been there, you know where it is. It's a cutout in the cement, and it's like an area supposedly where she would chain the kids and keep them there to punish them. And you could go back a little ways and you're separated from everyone. I crawled into that area and I sat there and I was quiet first in the pitch black, waiting to see what would happen. Just if I said nothing, and then I let whoever know that I was there and I had like little toys with me and whatever, and it was okay. And then I had kids and, you know, and I sat and I sat and I sat. And at first, my adrenaline was and my senses were so heightened because I was in there alone and all the stories I had heard, and not a thing, nothing, nothing. And I walked out of there and I was just like, man, I had never wished so much that an apparition of a child or one of my things would go flying or I would hear a child cry. I tried multiple EVP sessions and nothing, nothing. And I walked out of there like, wow, why not this time? Why not me? When so many other people have been here and said they have had stuff happen. Hey, Heather, how are you? Yes, I've been there and I know the area. Yeah, I mean, I was in there for a while, not like minutes. I was in there for a while. And here's the thing, too, without mentioning the location, um, Linda said she was there too, and nada. But again, Linda, so many people have said they've experienced things. Who am I to say that they haven't or it hasn't happened? So it was me and it was you. It happens. But there, there's a location. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say if it's even in this country, um, where um, they talk about multiple demons being in a house. Um, Everything in the place is haunted. There's a graveyard behind the place, and it's just like everything on the paranormal list. Check, 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 check. And I'm watching. Um, I'm watching this video of this location and the person who owns it taking people through and telling these stories about demon. There's 4 or 5 demons. There's 5 demons. There's the most haunted doll in the world. And I'm just like, you got all that going on in here, really? And a cemetery, and what you got? What pig's eyes in the windows and flies dead on the window too, and blood coming from the walls. I mean, hell, you might as well, right? I'm not. No, it's not that one, Heather. I'm not going to say what it is because it's still place somewhere in the world that people go and they visit. But I hear all that and I'm like, demons. Now we're talking multiple. We're talking like five, four, five. Okay, I'd love to go in there and see it for myself, and I'd be the first one to tell you, hey man, yeah, I think I got an attachment, or I think something. You know, people again have gone in there and experienced things, and there's whatever. But I think that um, I think that in some places, people either create the narrative, or I think that mediums create the narrative in a lot of locations. I've seen locations in which mediums have basically created the history of the location. And again, some are really, really good and maybe right and accurate, and those things happen, but they were never recorded. But again, some of these locations, it's like, oof, like, Hollywood movies. And this one in particular, I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, the guy's pointing out like a picture of a race car and going, that's haunted. That's haunted. I'm just like, wow, well, okay. And it's just like, all right, well, whatever. I guess it is, you know. But it is kind of, you know, like I said, you hear all that, and um, that again, and you mentioned the house in Indiana. I think that was I watch Ghost Adventures. Everybody knows that. I like that show a lot. Always have. Um, Entertainment purposes, to me, Zach and Aaron are more entertaining than anybody on TV. Um, Experimental. They are very experimental. They haven't really stayed with that, but for years they were trying different things, at least equipment and experimenting, which I really appreciate. But if you watch the Demon House documentary, which I did enjoy as a viewer, I enjoyed the way he did it. I enjoyed the story that it told. Um, if you're to believe everything that happened in that video, um, people were getting affected. I do believe that there was a girl who lived there who unalived herself. Supposedly, there was another kid who walked up a wall. Um, and, Zach went in there and filmed what he filmed, did the documentary, and then he demolished it. Now, in your opinion, was that the right or the wrong thing to do? Should he have had other people come in there and try to document and research? Or was it too dangerous to have stayed there? And did he do the right thing and demolish it? What's your opinion on that? Because you're really left with just the one impression now. You're just left with what Zach did and what he filmed, and then he leveled the building so that either A, no one else could go in there and debunk everything, or B, no one else would ever have the, chance of getting possessed again, or somebody, God forbid, unaliving themselves again. I mean, what's your theory on that? When you have buildings that are, Dr. Isaac said permanent eye damage. Yes, I did hear that as well. But again, what's your opinion on that? If you have a building that's dangerous and that, people have been affected, people were quote unquote possessed that lived there. Um, this is where the paranormal, because it's not acknowledged by, the law, um, and there's no way to prove it, it really becomes tricky because hypothetically, you move into a house, I move into a house, right? And let's say we move from out of state. In the world of social media, I know things are different now. But let's say hypothetically, you moved across country and you're living in some, place that's kind of like, isolated a little. Your neighbors are kind of far from each other. and weird crap starts happening that affects you physically and mentally, right? And let's say I don't believe in possession, but let's say possession is real. Let's say people are having mental issues, they're being physically assaulted or whatever, and like real movie stuff is going on in that house. And yet the people who sold it to you knew about it and didn't tell you. Like, what could you do about that? Honestly, what could you do? That's the funny thing about it. It's like, you know, that you can't go to court and you bring in whoever, paranormal Jason Hawes, whatever, and he's in there like, yeah, I went in there, it's haunted. There's whatever, John Zappis, there's demons in there. The judge is going to look at you and be like, what? Yet it could be real, right? In theory, you know, I just drove by the house yesterday, 2 days ago, the first house that I investigated where it was between two funeral homes and there was something really bad there, really bad there. And I was in my 20s when I investigated that place, and it was really bad there. And I just drove by that place again, and I literally look at that house and I get chills, and I wonder, like in my head, I'm thinking, are you still in there? Are you still in there? Because I never see cars parked in the driveway, yet the building, I know it's been renovated, but never see a car in the driveway. And I wonder all the time, like, are you still in there? And I wouldn't get out of my car. I won't go near that building. In the documentary, I don't think anything at the time, but now I heard they have the disclosed properties. Okay, but what, again, disclose that is, I know that, again, this was part of this thing that I was watching on YouTube, where now, like, you can, like, zone the property as being haunted now to make it more difficult. That makes it more difficult to be sold. I think that happens now if you want to go quote unquote commercial with it or whatever. But I do think you can designate your property as haunted now, and if you list it that way, yeah, you're responsible for the person knowing, I guess, if that's the way you're selling it as a haunted property. My mom promised she'd haunt my dad as a dove in their bedroom window gutter if he ever brought another. I can't even read the rest of that one. Donna, my tablet's on the other side of the room. I got to read that one. I'll be right back. I'm curious how that one goes. I got my tablet charging so I could see the comments on the TV. My mom promised she'd haunt my dad as a dove in their bedroom window gutter if he ever brought another woman home after her death. Sure enough, a single dove made a nest in the bedroom window gutter and banged on the house. Hey, Rich, how are you? Well, Mom, haunt my dad. Well, I mean, your mom had passed, I assume, and your father had moved on, so your mom didn't want him being with anybody, huh? Anymore, ever? So the demon dove on the window. But yeah, that's one of those things to think about. Like I said, I mean, I would be really pissed if, and then there's the other side of that coin. Okay, you move into a house, same scenario. You move across state, you buy a house, rural, whatever. You move in there, and all kinds of crap is happening. I mean, off the chart stuff. Let's say the same thing. Let's say things are moving, dishes are falling, someone in your family is feeling sick and oppressed, and some people start suffering mentally or whatever, and yet you go to the previous homeowner and the realtor and you say, hey, look, this crap is going on in my house. I bought this house from you. And they turn around and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I lived there 20 years and nothing ever happened. Then what? Right? Now, let's say they're telling the truth. You know, that was part of that Zach Baggins Demon House documentary too. That was really, again, believable in the sense that if you watched it, this woman whose son supposedly walked up the wall, and a woman from like child services was there at the house at the time, witnessed this happen, which I don't know if that happened or not, but supposedly this woman was on camera and she said she saw it happen, and she moved out of that house. She, when Zach showed up to where she was living now in an apartment, she didn't want anybody who had even been in that house, not just living, who had even been in the house or near the house, to be anywhere near her, because she was afraid whatever was there was going to attach to whoever that person was and come find her again. That's serious stuff there. So he had to talk to her through a window, and then he had to leave the property. That's freaky, you know? And like I said, it's the same thing with, I always tell people with haunted objects, you got something like that going on, you know it right away, get rid of it. Don't keep that energy in your home. Don't leave it there. Get rid of it. Get it away from you. You know? Dad sold the house. Did the dove follow him? Or no? That'd be an interesting story right there. That would be funny. But anyway, I wanted to come on Friday night. You know, I like to come on at least twice a week. Usually once for one of these and another for an investigation of some kind. You know, Creeper Gallery or whatever. Um, you know, I do want to encourage you guys, if you can, make it out to the Creeper Gallery. You know, eventually, you know, if you can make a trip there, summer, nice weather, or whatever, definitely go check it out. You know, Donna's having surgery on her hip. She'll be back there, I think, in maybe May. I think our event with Donna is in July at her house in the gallery, but it really is worth the trip. I mean, I go on TikTok or whatever, and I see so many places now, stores, people, whatever, that have haunted objects and haunted things in their shop and whatever. And I'm just like, you know, I don't know. It's different for me because, again, back when we started with Donna, um, I didn't know a whole lot about haunted objects, and guys like John Zaffis had his museum. You know, the Warrens have their museum, and I didn't know a whole lot about them, and um, coming in there and starting to work with those objects, and now here we are, 7 years later, at least, maybe 8 or more. I don't know. It's just different for me because I know what Donna does, um, to acquire those objects, and the process in which she vets them. I mean, if you had any idea how much stuff is still in her gallery that's attached to her house, that she literally says to me, I haven't had enough time to work with that object yet, or I haven't had it read yet. I'm not going to put it in. She won't put it in the shop until it is, until she at least has something, or she lives with it for a while, which, tell me who's doing that? Nobody, you know? So that's what attracted me to the whole Creeper Gallery process. We had gone and we did our cable access show there, and we investigated the building, and then I had her on here once. You guys can go back on YouTube and watch it. Janet, Jeanette, a medium who I really like a lot, had a Scottish accent that I could listen to all day long. That was Donna's medium. She didn't have any investigators in there. She just had her medium. that would do the readings of the objects before we got involved. And Donna would do this thing where she would have one day, it was an event, people paid 10, 15, 20 bucks for it or whatever. One day where people could bring in their objects that they thought might have an attachment, and Janet would handle each item and do a reading for free. We had to pay for admission, of course. So we attended that event, Chris and we sat in the chair in the old Creeper Gallery in a circle. And I had never met Janet before. And I'm listening to her um, do readings on these objects. And to her credit, not everything was haunted. She would like, no, I'm sorry. I don't feel anything. I don't think you have anything here. And then another one, she would, I'm picking up on a girl, bah, 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 bah. And then another one, no, I'm sorry. I'm trying. Close her eyes. I'm not getting anything. So I was kind of impressed with that. Just again, meeting her and then having the chance to sit and talk with her afterwards. And although we didn't work together collectively, we never investigated together. She would do her readings, we would do our investigations, and that's how it always kind of stayed that way. If I were to ever do a TV show, which would never happen because I'm too old and it ain't ever going to happen, but I would love to have that woman as her Jane as our medium for the TV show, because personality, the Scottish accent, and there's nothing better than hearing a Scottish woman with that thick accent tell you the spirit's angry. This one's angry. I can feel it. I just knew it's angry. And you just look, and I had a smile on my face, and she was being totally serious. And I'm like, could you say that again? Just please, because I can never get tired of that accent and hearing you. It just adds so much more to the story, hearing it in a Scottish accent. So Janet, she got married and she moved on with her life, and she's not that involved with the Creeper Gallery anymore. But I encourage you guys, if you can make it out there, I'm sure during the summertime, springtime, when Donna comes back, we'll make it out there on a Sunday when she's there, and we'll hang out. Last time we did that, we had Patricia. We had lunch with Donna, Patricia, and Jay, and we had a great time just hanging out all day. But yeah, you should try to get out there, because again, the shop's been there a long time. Donna puts her heart and soul into that place with the art and acquiring those objects. And it's not just going to flea markets or whatever. And hey, here's an old doll. It's haunted because by little Susie, she just doesn't do that. And I know she doesn't. And then we come in there and do what we do live. Speak of the devil, Jay, I just conjured you. I was talking about you. So I do think the Creeper is different than a lot of other places out there that do what the Creeper Gallery does, or tries to do what the Creeper Gallery does, because there isn't another Don out there. I mean, John Zaffis and I were talking about people that have haunted objects collections. In the case of, again, the Warrens, but the Warrens are bringing theirs out everywhere now. And but John Zaffis learned from his aunt and his uncle. There's other people out there who are becoming more well known that have collections that are traveling. If you take them on as a caretaker, and your intention is to really, care for the memory of the spirit and take care of that energy and provide, in your home or wherever you're keeping it. The caretaker part is the important part. And, John brings that up. And I said to John, that's what Donna is. Donna has always said to me, I'm kind of like the way station. These objects and these spirits are kind of lost in the in-between, and the people didn't want them anymore, or they wound up somewhere not being taken care of or acknowledged. And she's kind of like the foster home for the good ones, at least the energy that's not so bad. Those are the ones that she fosters, and they move on to people that buy them and keep them and take care of them for whatever reason that has drawn that person to that object. And I know there's a few people on here that have purchased those objects. You're the next caretaker in that line of people that have cared for that spirit slash object. Um, so those are the ones that Donna kind of fosters, takes care of, and then moves on. The ones that are dangerous, to her credit, they sit in the side room and they don't leave that shop. And again, to her credit, those are the ones that will probably fetch big money. And I know the cursed box and a few others people have offered a lot of money for. And she said, no, I just don't trust. I don't want to be responsible if this thing goes and the wrong person buys it for the wrong reason, just because they want this evil whatever item, and bam, something happens. So, to her credit, she is one of those people who is a caretaker slash foster for these objects that are in limbo until they go to their forever home, if whatever you want to call it. And I respect that. And I love being part of that process, because for me, all I'm doing is, I'm not a salesman. I'm not going in there trying to sell anything. I'm not. I really, Chris and I, that is the last thing on our mind, whether or not any and all of those objects are going to sell. We're in there to be part of the process and try to connect and try to get more information and validate whatever we can, and let them have a voice, so that in itself is being carried over as well with the object to the next place it goes. And if it's bad and it shows it's bad, you saw it happen right there with us. You run that risk. Whatever happened to me or Chris, same thing. But I really enjoy being part of that process, and I would miss it if and when it ever does stop, because even if I stop doing public investigations with people and going in buildings and stuff, I've really grown fond of the object part of it, and that I would like to continue for a while, you know. But anyway, I'm babbling, I know, but just wanted to come on and say hello to everyone. Thanks for watching. I know I go around the horn and talk about everything and anything. Um, June 13th, we are um, doing a paranormal picnic. Don't know yet where yet, but we'll figure it out. The other thing I wanted to mention was August 22nd. Besides the stuff going on with Michael and Marty, and Cody and Satori, there's still tickets available for that. The Ghost Walk with Michael and Marty, there's only a few spaces left to that. Gallery reading, there's still some. The Ghost Hunt, we're getting down, but there are some available. But the other thing we have for people that want to come earlier, or if they want to bring younger people and not expose them to the medium stuff and the haunted objects and all that, we're going to do some ghost walks during the day earlier, probably like 10:30, 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to bring your kids, and if they're old enough and mature enough, it's only going to be $20. We're going to put it out there, the link. We only limit it to like 15, 18 people. So we'll be doing those during the day, because we'll be there all day. So if you're interested in that, you want to bring your family, a bunch of people, to just expose them to what the mine is like and what we do, because we will try EVP sessions and stuff. We're going to do that earlier, at 10 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock in the morning. So think about that. If you can't come at night and you want to come during the day and you want to bring your family by and you want to just go on a ghost walk through the mine, that'll be cool too. So that's it, guys. Probably come back Sunday night or Monday night. hopefully, you know, I know we'll be doing a creeper gallery next week, and hopefully I can get someone to come on and join me for a conversation next week. I like having those. I like having different people on, so I'll try to set that up as well. All right. So have a great weekend, guys. Good seeing everyone. Again, sorry for babbling for an hour. I'm good at that. It's what I do. Thanks for your support, as always, and I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.